Have you ever gotten to a new place and it's so exciting that you're popping out of your body with excitement, but you're also incredibly scared? Or maybe you've never left your hometown. Maybe you've never even left your parents' home, the home you grew up in. But you're here just because of that, because you want to experience something different. You want to experience that excitement of another country, another culture, and experience something new. Or maybe even you found yourself back in your home. You've come back from a trip, or maybe quite a long stay in another country, another culture. And even though you're home, it doesn't feel the same. Have you ever experienced culture shock or reverse culture shock? These experiences are both familiar to me on both ends. And today, again, I'm in Colorado, and here behind me is my family home, the home I grew up in. Since I was born until 18, I lived in this house, and now I come back here every year. But that doesn't mean it's my home. This is a place I grew up, but it's so different from the place I grew up in. And this home is so different than the home I grew up in, mainly because of me. The home hasn't really changed very much. But reflecting on all of that, I wanted to talk with you today about a couple tips, a couple ways to deal with culture shock and reverse culture shock. I think they're both complicated, but I almost think reverse culture shock is even more difficult. So if you don't know me already, I want to introduce myself by saying hi. I'm Maureen Turnbull-Arbelo, and I'm the founder of Prepare Integrational Language Coaching. And I work with people to inspire and empower them to cross the many boundaries of language and culture that can but do not have to separate us, and to cross those borders confidently. And that's why I'm here today, to talk about how to confidently address those questions of culture shock and reverse culture shock. So I want to talk about two points, two important aspects. I think the most important aspects for me right now are openness and appreciation. So what do I mean by openness and appreciation? First of all, whether we're traveling to a new country, a new culture, or whether we're returning to where we're from, we need to be very open. So when we are the foreigner traveling, lots of things are going to be different. Because of that, they might be exciting or they may be very scary, but for sure they're going to be different. So we need to be open and accepting, because we very well might find that we don't like them, but we may find that we like things that we never even imagined we could like. But we can only figure that out if we're open to those new experiences that really being in a new culture and a different country can offer us. It's one of the best ways to just experience something completely different. And if we're open to those experiences, it can change our lives. It can radically transform the ways we see the world, what we think we like. We can realize we have other things that we like even more, or maybe the same, or maybe we transform some different ways that we think about ourselves or our preferences or our dislikes or our worldviews. These are all the transformations that can and very often do happen when we're in a new culture. And that's why it's called culture shock, because it is shocking to realize that maybe you are different. Not only are you different because you're in that culture, but you yourself are different because you're there and you're transforming as you're in this new place. But the same is also true when you come home. And that can often be the most shocking and the most unsettling, I would say, because there you are. You're back where you should be, back where you used to be, and you're home, but it doesn't feel the same. Some things feel like they're just the same, but like they've never changed, but you've changed. And that's the truth. You have changed because you've experienced another culture, and you have probably transformed, maybe very drastically, maybe quite subtly, but all those changes have transformed the way you are and the way you see the world. So even the way you see something like your family home or your hometown will transform. And what you do with that is so important. So just as you have to be open when you go to a new culture, you also have to be open when you come, quote unquote, home. You need to be open to those experiences and open to that possibility that you have changed, and be ready to see how that works when you come back. You can't be so closed off to want to do what you did before or do things completely different. You need to be open to see where you fit, because you have transformed a little bit. Maybe a lot, maybe a little. But the way you're going to fit in those spaces that you used to occupy, you're going to fit a little bit differently. So you need to be open to those possibilities. And then acceptance, appreciation. Let's talk about appreciation rather than acceptance, actually. Appreciation, we can also use the word gratitude, because we really need to appreciate both the good of a new place, the good of what was, the good of what is to come, all of that. That's what I want to talk about when we talk about appreciation and gratitude. So when you're traveling to a new place, a new culture, a new country, you have to appreciate those things that are different. So rather than going, oh my God, I can't believe they eat that. Wow, okay, they eat that. I'm gonna try that. And maybe you like that. You find out that's great. That's something to be very grateful for. Maybe you find out that is not something you appreciate in that way. It's not something you necessarily enjoy. Well, then you can be very grateful that you have the other option from where you came from your home country, from your hometown. Maybe a dish, for example, if we're talking about food. If you don't enjoy that new food, maybe you're very appreciative for the great food that you had growing up. Maybe you really appreciate some architectural styles, or maybe you don't appreciate particular architectural things. Then you can be super grateful for different aspects of architecture from where you came from, because you'll realize with that perspective how lucky you really were and how lucky you really are, because you always have that choice wherever you are to incorporate things you like from where you came from and from where you've been. And so with that, that's the other part of appreciation. So when you come back, let's say when you were in that other culture, when you were living in that other country, there were things you really loved. Well, bring those back with you. If it's food, you can learn how to cook that when you come back. You can introduce that to your family and friends. That's really an exciting way to share that experience, because sometimes one of the very most difficult things about that culture shock when you come back, that reverse culture shock, is that people can't really understand that experience that you've been through. So maybe by literally breaking bread, maybe by sharing that food, they can experience a little bit of that other culture, because really culture has a lot to do with our stomachs, a lot to do with our food. So by making some food, breaking some bread, you can really let them have some experiences that you had. And it will also give you that feeling of, oh yeah, I remember eating this feijoada that reminds me of when I was in Rio de Janeiro, whatever it may be. Yeah? Or eating these chicken wings reminds me of when I was in Fort Collins. Yeah? And the other way around as well. If you're traveling and you find things that you don't like, you can go ahead and think, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. I love what I had. So I want to leave you with that. With, first of all, the knowledge and the affirmation that both culture shock and reverse culture shock are very common. Most of us who have traveled, especially those who have spent longer periods of time outside of our own culture and country, have experienced those. And it's often even more difficult when we come back because, for example, I'm from Fort Collins, I'm from the US, but I'm not the same person I was before I lived in other places. And I don't interact with the United States in the same way, nor do I understand myself as the same person that I did before those experiences. So I am different, and sometimes that's difficult for me to navigate. And I want to share the ideas of openness and appreciation with you so that if you're going through those same experiences, hopefully that helps you. And I would love to know your experiences, what's helped you through these experiences, and how the ideas of culture shock and reverse culture shock appear to you, and how they've been for you. Please share with us, because this is something we all go through and we all navigate in different ways, and of course we all have very different experiences, so please share yours with us. I am so thankful to be here with you today, sharing a little bit about my life, and it's such a pleasure to be here in beautiful, colorful Colorado. And thank you so much for sharing your time with me. I'm so very grateful, and I hope that this was served you, and I can't wait to talk with you next week. It's such an honor. Much light, much love, and the very best that this universe has to offer you. See you next week. Ciao, ciao.